next, we have Philip Clarke. And I'm going to make sure that I get this right because Philip will have my head. It's Philip with one L and make sure there's an E on the Clarke. He is the Director of Art and Culture at the University of Technology Jamaica. I hope I did justice to that one, Philip. Give me a thumbs up if I did. I practice. I practice. He is also the creative mind behind the Light Camera Real Life series. Now, for those of you who know about the Toastmasters experience, there is a part about creating a blog. There's also build a social media audience. Now, Philip is doing this organically and he does this via interviews. What he's here to do is to give you some tips and answer your questions as it relates to one, what you just saw, and two, what he will be presenting. Philip, ready, rearing, light, camera. I would say action, but your tagline is real life. So life, camera, real life.
Real life. Thank you very much, Joni. Is everybody hearing me well? Welcome, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I am.
I don't think I'm going to be very long. I just want to make sure that I serve my purpose here today. Joni wants me to answer questions about body language in making presentations and talk a little about my podcast, which you can see in the background there. I feel honored to be talking about a podcast that it was an idea, now it's a reality. But a little bit of that in a little while. And if there's anybody who would like to stop me and ask me any questions, just let me know. I will put a link to the podcast in the chat as time goes along. But let me speak first about body language. You know, Angela said a lot about body language a while ago, and my car as well. I know everybody was listening. There are quite a number of things that were said that were very instrumental in how you use the camera and how you present yourself on the camera. And yes, Angela, you told me about my glasses. I hope I'm not seeing any glare in the glasses now. I try. If I take off my glasses, I don't know if I can see very well, and I don't want to lean in too far so that you're wondering, what is he doing? I'll tell you a story. You're seeing the rings in my glasses. Okay. All right, Daphne. Well, I'm going to try and see if I can adjust that at some point in time. And I think some of it is just making sure I don't stay in the same place all the time, which Angela said that you can't stay in the same place all the time. I tell you a story though. I remember when I did my first speech. I was 13 years old. And contrary to what I may sound like and look like now, I was a very shy individual, extremely shy. I don't know what I was doing in public speaking. I really don't know what I was doing. But I was kind of tired of being called shy, and I was tired of being afraid of people. And so I decided to join the debating society in high school. Lo and behold, it landed me on this public speaking team for a science speaking public speaking competition at 13 years old. And when I realized this was the day for me to go in front of this audience, go on a stage and speak, I almost died. I'm not kidding you now. I'm just taking myself back now. Imagine me at 13 years old. I'm shaking like a leaf. My heart is beating outside of my chest. I'm literally seeing my heart outside of my chest. I have to hold my heart and say, no, stop. I can't manage. I'm weak. I am shivering. And I remember this lady. She walked up to me. Tall, demure, elegant, confident lady. And she said to me, young man, are you okay? You don't look okay. What's wrong? Can you believe you people? I couldn't even I couldn't even say anything to her. I was just so overcome with fear, anxiety, all of that. And she said to me, "You're going to speak, right?" I said, "Yes, yes." And she said, "Okay, don't worry. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you what you do. You see, when you get on the stage, just find a pleasant face. Find a pleasant face and just look at that face. And you just look at that face and just deliver your speech." I said, "Yes, miss." With air coming, I mean, the last air coming out of my mouth. Because I really thought I was going to faint. I really thought I was going to pass out. Anyhow, I managed to get up on that stage. And I stood up with my hands on my jaw like this, looking up in the ceiling. Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord. I was there for quite a while, but people were waiting on me to speak. They were waiting on me to speak. Can I tell you something? That I slowly took my eyes off the ceiling and slowly brought them down. And when I brought them down to the level of the audience, I saw a beautiful white teeth, just somebody smiling like this. And of course, I just focused directly on that set of teeth. You know who the person was? The same lady who told me to try to find a pleasant face. She's the same one who was right there in the audience, who was maintaining eye contact with me and was engaging me. And can I tell you another thing? She was also the head judge for the competition. I was like, oh my goodness. But guess what? I delivered this speech. I just looked at her majority of the time. And then one point in time, I became a little bit more confident because I was developing this relationship with this individual. And one or two times I looked away to the left, looked away to the right, and I said, "Wow, I'm looking at the audience, man, I won and thing." And then I went back to her because I felt a little bit too alone looking away from her. So I came back to her and delivered my speech. One lesson I learned from that experience is that, we talk about a lot about our body language. As a speaker, that we must have attentive, engaging body language. But the audience as well need to learn how to have engaging body language that allows you to speak to the audience, allows you to respond favorably. So there's something about body language for both persons who are listening and both persons who are speaking. And the other thing is this. There are two things about body language, and we all know body language is how we communicate the message using nonverbal communication. But there is intentional body language and there is unintentional body language. So when I want to look carefully at you, there's intentional body language because I want you to take me in. I want you to settle on my point. But in unintentional body language is when something probably distracts us and we look away and we didn't really want to look away and we look away and there's that unintentional body language. How do we prevent against that? Because that's part of what we need to do to learn how to be a better speaker. And then there is the gesticulation. A lot of us gesticulate because we love to gesticulate, but we don't understand that gesticulation must be with a purpose. So I can want to gesticulate while I'm talking and I'm giving you this and I want you to let you know that what am I doing? What are you focusing on right now?
Your hand on your mouth.
The hand and the fingers, don't it? May I wonder if Philip wanted to know that he got
You're
married?
thinking COVID.
Philip must have wanted you to know that he got married. Yes, Philip. Philip, tell me he got married. Then you get married on time. Philip is married. Really? Yes, because Philip wants you to focus on. But no, you can't be gesticulating, and it has nothing to do with your speech. So you have to be deliberate, intentional with your gesticulation. And sometimes you go one and you go two because you want to make a second point. But if you go three and a two me see up there, I'm going to be confused, don't it? I'm going to be very, very confused. So let me pause right here. Can you share with me some of what you might think are unintentional body language that you have challenges with?
I have no shame, so I will start. I am a bird in the current life. I flap like nobody's business. My hands are a force all to themselves. That is, this is where they live. This is how they are. They have to fly whenever I'm talking.
Mhm. All right. You know what I would say to you, Joni, and everybody else, you can chime in on this if you think I'm right or think I'm wrong. I prefer face-to-face communication. You see what I did a while ago? Did you see what I did a while ago?
Hold on to your ear.
All right. Okay. So I'm glad you're paying attention. This is excellent. Now, that is an example of unintentional body language. And why we do this, why we associate, why we continue to do that is because of our comfort zone. So, Joni, you are expressing something that's a part of your comfort zone. It's who you are. And the thing is, we want to be comfortable when we are making a speech. But we have to remind ourselves that every gesticulation must be intentional to aid or push the message along. So the minute you say to yourself, there are things I'm going to have to probably write into my speech. There are things that I am going to have to say to myself what I should do at this point of the speech so I can move the message along. So this shaking up, this touching of the ear and that kind of stuff is because I'm comfortable, but it's not a part of my speech. So you have to remind yourself, Angela was saying earlier, what do you do before the speech? So you have to tell yourself, what are some of the things that I have to do? And probably intentionally write them down, in terms of body language or gesticulation, to aid to continue my speech. And try to forget about those things that I do when I'm comfortable. The other reason I will fidget like that has a lot to do with the fact that I don't train my body because I'm sitting down. We tend to train our bodies when we're standing up. We tend to be more alert when we're standing up. And when we're sitting, we tend to be in a position of, again, comfort. So when we're sitting down, we tend to do the fiddling. In face-to-face communication, if you're nervous, we do the fiddling as well. So we have to go back to, what do I do to make my message be engaging and move it along? Yes, Perla, go ahead.
Okay, I am a tour operator. Sometimes I'm driving while telling about my island, okay?
Yes.
I'm giving a tour. And although I'm driving, I have my hand going and my face gestures. And every now and then, I mean, I always have the rearview mirror. So my guests, it's easy for them to see in the rearview mirror my expressions because I believe in just expressing myself.
Right.
Okay. Now, there is a time that it is more helpful to tone that down, depending on the crowd I have. If I have a younger crowd, for instance, I'm just saying, if I have a younger crowd and we're speaking about music and it works well. But if you have an older crowd who needs to be explained why some of the hills have patches in it and some of the hills have, they need to be able to see this, and
Right,
with the gestures, they really have to be toned down.
right.
That's why when you're speaking now, I'm trying to relate with, okay, yeah, this is why the zoo, and sometimes I just do it like this way, and this is the reason. Now I'm getting more the reason why it does automatically happen while you're speaking, while, how you adjust.
Right, right. And another thing I want to say is that we're very animated people, especially for those who are from the Caribbean. We're very animated. We learn how to be animated. We speak with our bodies all the time. So we have to accept that first of all. We have to accept that. But when we tell ourselves, what is it I'm going to be talking about? Remind ourselves, so what am I going to be talking about? Do I need to do X here? Do I need to do Y here? You see, you have to be very deliberate in what you want to say and where you want to put the gesticulation, where you want to put an emphasis and so forth and so on. And I'm telling you, nobody no more expressive than me. Having been in the performing arts, you have to learn to be expressive. I'm a dancer, I'm an actor, and I'm always being expressive. But I recognize that the body has to have discipline. And in a speech, somebody said choreographed. Yes, Daphne says, I tend not to be animated. I tend not to be animated. Let me read that again. I tend not to be animated with my body, thus I have found the need to choreograph my movements. The animation tends to be in my face. Definitely, definitely. And this is this thing with me now. I have to remember that it's all about my face and not so much about my entire body. Yes, I can do a speech and my body comes into it. But most of the times we're sitting down instead of standing up, and so we have to be very careful. I for one, because I know how expressive I am, I don't focus on my face. So we talk about unintentional and intentional body language. All of these things have to be deliberate. Body language, I've heard, is 90% of how we communicate. I think, yes, that's the last thing I read, about 80 to 90% of how we communicate. I want to say this. It is not your body language and your words, or your words, I should say, are a part of the speech. You are the speech. You are the presentation. And this is why you can't divorce yourself from what you say and what you do. So I want to encourage you to own the way how you express yourself. Learn how to do it better, but own it. So if you are aware of your different movements, whether unintentional or intentional, you have to learn how to use them to get better at what you're doing. So I am a dancer. How do I use that in my speeches? So dancers have rhythm. You move 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. You can use your shoulders to move when you're doing whatever you're doing. And as a result of that, I can see that you are actually going at a particular pace. But where in the speech am I going to do that? Maybe I am talking about a story where I am running or walking, or I am sashaying across the catwalk. All of those things, you use them in your shoulders. Because I know that I have to move, I have to find a way of putting it into my speech. Remember I said, you are the speech. It's not your PowerPoint, it's not the words, it's not the text, it's not the body alone. You are the presentation. So everything must come together in a as Daphne said, a choreographed way. And that's why we do it over and over, over and over and over and over. We don't just get up and talk and be, we are excellent. That's what we do. We have to sometimes go back to the drawing board and write down, okay, at this point, how do I say this? Do I make that action or am I silent? We talk about the audience and eye contact and engaging. That's part of your body language. Now, when I look across to my screen and I'm talking, I'm not engaging you, I'm just talking. And I'm probably talking as if I'm thinking. Is something wrong with that? Or is there any way I can use that in my speech, in my presentation? Does that work at all in any way at all?
I think it does. There is a
Tell me.
place for it.
Tell me.
If your speech is about thinking or reflecting, or you're trying to go back in time to recall something that happened, I think it's appropriate.
Okay. Excellent. What I'm saying, why I did that, I want us to get comfortable with everything that we do with our body. But while we're getting comfortable, as you just said, you think it does because it shows I'm reflecting. But there are times when people are doing that and not because they're nervous and they're not looking in the camera. So it's just like when I was 13, I was doing this.
I have a point on this.
And then
I'm
I
glad you brought
slowly
it
bring
up.
it down. So
I
we
have a
can
point on this,
use
and I'm
different
glad you brought
things.
it up.
Yes, Joni.
When we think, what you did was a stylized version of how we actually think. The emoji. If you've ever seen the thinking emoji, the reason he looks like this is because your eyes move according to the memory and where to find them. So when you were a little boy, unconsciously, what you were doing is trying to remember your speech, and you were looking up either because the where your eyes look is towards the part of your brain that you're trying to access the information from. So it's a natural kick. What
Mm-hmm.
I learned to do with time is that focus. So if I know that if my eyes, I'm going to be thinking of an auditory memory. I think auditory memory, and if you Google it, or I will find the Google post for you, the auditory memory is here, and you look this way, and then you have possibly a visual memory. I think the visual memory or the word memory is what is up here. If you do a stylized version, you get the opportunity to tap into the part of your brain that would do it naturally, and you get to still do it, but then the audience believes that it was choreographed and a part of your speech. And that was one of the things, because of the flapping, that I had to learn. I had to learn to give myself directives. For example, I need to 1, 2, 3. So I point the hands to do something. I have to put words into the speech specifically to let my brain know, point, count, like small, large, include words that will give a gesture. See, I got you. So because I know my hands will go crazy, I had to put language into the speech to give my body things to do. So if I know I have to remember something and it's going to have to be a memory I have to access, then what you did with doing the stylized version of it, you can put it in the speech and people will realize that you're actually doing what you do naturally out of nervousness. You just added it in a way that it looks like a part of the show.
Yes. Thank you very much for that, Carol. Joni. Carol is saying that she did it once in a speech and her evaluator said she was looking away from the camera. Can you share more about that, Carol? Because I kind of wanted to know if the evaluator was saying that they're looking away from the camera took away from your speech. Was that what the evaluator was trying to say?
I think so, because thank you for acknowledging me, Sir Clarke. And I was standing and delivering that speech, and I did that pose as if, yes, I need to get the memory, that thinking pose as we just coined it. And I was told that I looked away from my camera, but that was intentional for me to get you to wonder, why am I looking there? But it's all good. I am learning, and I'll definitely find ways of getting this even more in being impactful when I'm delivering with my body language speech next time around.
Mm-hmm. As thank you. As Johnny said, the stylized, choreographed way is probably what didn't convince the evaluator. So the looking away can be a negative, and it can be a positive. It's just probably how you do it. But the thing is, we have to accept what our body language, our body tendencies are. We have to accept that. I like when I'm coaching somebody, I start with where they are. What are their idiosyncrasies? What are their natural movements? And I watch how they move naturally when they're speaking, giving a presentation. And then I note, okay, do you know, I said to them, do you know that you do this when you say a particular word? Do you know that you tend to tap your feet or shake your hand or turn your head at a certain time? No, I didn't know that. Well, this is part of why we have to learn about ourselves as we speak. I remember someone saying to me, Philip, you always tend to look away, look to the back of the audience when you say now. So I never look at the person who's directly in front of me or a little bit away from me. I look all the way to the back, and people can see that I'm looking over them when I say now. I didn't recognize that at all. So we have to learn our own body language so that we can become better presenters. Gesticulation, again, is probably what most of us are guilty of. I have a suggestion for that. Sitting down, if you're sitting down, you make sure that your back is straight. If you're sitting down and you're in a reclining position, you will use your hands more because you are trying to make yourself energized. Your hands are what help you to stay energized. When you're standing up, you tend to be a little bit freer. And that's why some people tend to stand when they're speaking. When you're standing up, if you look at somebody in a face-to-face setting when they're standing up, and they're behind a lectern, what is the first thing generally that they do with their hands?
Either put it on the lectern or they put it behind them.
Exactly. They tend to put it on the lectern. It's a way of feeling safe. We tend to do that, and it's a way of controlling sometimes our own nerves, or we put them behind us. So you have to look at what it is for you. For you, what is it that you do when you're standing or when you're sitting? And then you pay attention to that. For me, when I'm sitting, because I have a gesticulation issue, I plant my hands on my thighs. Right now they're on my thighs. You don't know that. And so I'm squeezing into my thighs because I know that whenever I get comfortable and I'm into the body of my speech, I am going to gesticulate. But because I write down in my speech where I must gesticulate, all right, I put my hands on my thigh and I press down into it because I know I'm going to want to get off at some point. And then I say, now you see what I'm saying. And I put my hand out. The last thing I'm going to say is this: your internet connection. Now, sometimes we're doing all of these things and gesticulating and the internet connection, or even we're gesticulating properly. We're gesticulating properly, but the internet connection make it look slow and or sometimes fast. You don't want to be that lady in the AT&T fiber ad when she was introducing her baby, her newborn baby, to her sister, and their internet connection failed, and she was like, "Huh? What's happening?" Oh, but the other person on the other line thought that she was responding or reacting to the baby, and she felt offended. And the sister is going, "What is happening to my oh?" And she's putting her hands up and she's going, "Hmm, what?" But the internet connection is what is causing all these problems. So the lady on the other side, the sister, has her baby in her arms, showing her the baby, and she thinks that she is disgusted by watching her. Oh my. I feel it for her. I so feel it for her. So you have to watch your internet connection. A while ago, before I came on, a message came on my screen. Your internet connection is unstable. So I hope you're not seeing any delays in my presentation while I am speaking. Because that can take away from the message as well. All right. Any other questions? Comments? I told you I'm not going to be long. But I believe you wanted to hear about my podcast now, which I'm so excited to talk about. This podcast, well, first of all, it's always been a dream. It has been a dream. It's still a dream of mine to become a world-renowned interviewer, a host for a television interview show. I really have dreamt about it, and I still daydream about it sometimes. I'm inspired by people like Oprah. As a matter of fact, Ian Boyne, who used to host Profile on Jamaica television, I went to him once and I said to him, I really enjoy watching your program. And I said, one of the reasons I enjoy watching your program is I like the way how you ask questions. And he said to me, "What? Nobody has ever said that to me before." I said, "Yes, I listen to the questions, but I also listen to how you ask the questions and when you ask the questions in the interview." And he says, "Wow, nobody has ever commented on that ever to me." And this was like a couple months before he died, actually. And I told him I listen to interviews, and I listen to interviews generally. I listen to how the interviewer asks questions. And I said to myself, I want to be like that. I want to be like that kind of person who can get things out of people. But more importantly, I wanted to create a show that gets people to talk about the issues, the real issues of life, but mainly to talk about their lives. So during the pandemic, and everybody was at home, and the idea came up to me again, and I said, somebody said to me, "Why don't you do an Instagram live?" And I said, "Live? I I don't know about a live show. That means I can't edit anything. I don't know about that." Anyways, the long and short of it is that I did it. I started it, and I did 14 episodes of Lights, Camera, Real Life on Instagram Live. It was every Wednesday evening, I think it was, at 8 o'clock. And after that, somebody said to me, "Why don't you just put that into a full TV show?" I said, "Well, I don't have the means." "Well, why don't you put it on YouTube then, or something, just, develop some kind of thing." And I said, "Let me do it as a podcast." And I actually converted the Instagram live shows to podcasts. And that was season 1. And then I decided I'm going to do season 2. You say, "Oh, man, it's something going on." Yeah. I decided to do season 2. And season 2 now had a promo ad and all these kinds of things going on. And so I learned about how to do it from, technical people. I just decided to create a video. I created all the text, all the things inside of it because it was inside of me. And the show really is about looking at the journey of life through the eyes of regular people and them sharing their real life story as much as possible. And so far, it has been very inspiring. People have told me the feedback has been one where they feel like they're talking to a real person. And I said to myself, what am I going to do to set myself apart? Because a social media manager said to me, what sets your show apart from everybody else? I don't know, Maybe if you listen to it, you can tell me. But doing a podcast, it takes I didn't know this, a lot of discipline to engage first of all, to engage the interviewee. I do it through Zoom now, but I don't do the video just yet because I'm not there yet. So it's a podcast, it's an audio podcast, and so it's now on Spotify and on YouTube. And you will look in the background, there are some other podcast platforms that it is already also on. So when I do it in Zoom, I'm seeing the person. And it allows me to have a connection with the person because I'm seeing and I'm talking and I'm having a chat with the person. And so it's like a fireside chat. And we just talk about different things. But guess what? Someone said to me when I did it first, he said to me, you talk too much. You must make the guests talk. And so after that, I said, okay, I'm going to ensure I phrase a question so that you get them to talk. And you start and stop talking about yourself. And I'm learning as I go along, but that has been a tremendous help. And so the podcast is on Spotify and now it's on YouTube, but it's just for the audio. Next up, you'll see it on one of these networks one of these days. Is there anybody who is thinking of doing any such thing? Okay. Well, I'm going to put, Carol says one day. Sure, Carol. One day. Allow me, if I may join, may I put one of the links in the chat? Okay.
Of course.
This was one of my last episodes. Right. I'm now going to put into the chat. Yes, Carol, you know what to call on. All right. So there you have it. Any questions, comments, concerns? And please do like, share, subscribe, and give me your feedback. I would really look forward to hearing your feedback because you're always growing, you're always learning. I've always asked myself, would you do it on a television show? And I just don't think I have the face for TV. What do you think? I don't think I have the face for TV. I like being on radio or podcast. Think I
You
have
have
the face
been
for
on the
TV?
stage, Philip. So I think this is the part where we ask everybody to unmute and applaud Philip and say yes, we're saying. Let's boost Philip.
Have the face.
Philip.
You. Thank you. There you
Oh
go.
my God.
For real.
Oh boy, I love Toastmasters, it allows you to be vulnerable in a space that you're safe to express yourself. And thank you, Philip, for, you're someone I look up to. I knew you from another life.
I know, right?
Yes. Yes, I really thank you. I have seen your growth, though. You have moved on to, you know, the bigger space, the social media space, and so on. So when we met, you were just in the face-to-face mode. So that's a lot of growing.
Thank
And
you.
I am sure that your next step is to have the confidence to be on the television.
Ah,
I have
wow.
seen you on television, though, Philip. I'm sure I've seen you in ads, haven't I?
Well, that's an ad, you know, to do
Doesn't
a
matter.
full-time show is a lot more work and commitment.
I know, but I think you have put your foot in and you're almost like a household name. A lot of people, yes. I mean, I didn't even see you until somebody said, "Isn't that Philip?" And I said, you know what? I'm going to look at that ad again. So that's okay. You have the TV face, man. Yeah,
Yes,
but thank
thank
you for
you.
your presentation. Just so natural, you know. And a lot of us aspire to be like you.
Oh, you're making me blush now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Verona.
Yeah, man, that's your gift.
All right, so do we have any other questions for Philip as it relates to body language? Or I can give Philip a suggestion. You get two lights, Philip, you put one right here and Jiki shared this one. So it's not an original. This is a passing on. You put one this side and one this side. That way you're illuminated and it's not directly in front of you and it's less likely it will show in your glasses. And the size of the light is not of significance. But I think you might have like one big light, put a one big light to the side and then another light to the other side so that it's coming sideways. It will never glare in your glasses because you'll never be looking directly at it.
Okay.
You'll still be illuminated.
I always thought they said that the light must be in front of you.
It must be in front of you so that it illuminates you. But currently, my light sources are right there and right there,
Yeah, to the left, to the left and the
to
right.
the left and the right. So one, it's not staring at it for too long will mess up your eyes. Having the light shining directly at you when you're looking
Mhm.
at it will mess up your eyes. And also, it helps to have the illumination. My joke is whenever the tiny ring light is off, I have a lamp. That's my source. I highlight the pretty side that I like. So, you know,
Mhm.
everybody sees that one. So that one gets the most light. So that when the side that's not the pretty side, sometimes it's in the shadow and it's not in a good mood. So you put
Right.
major light towards the side you want to emphasize. When the other light
Okay.
hits it, it will highlight both sides, but it won't be actually in your eyes.
Thank you for that, Johnny. Noted.
So do we have any more questions? I think we're all set. Okay.